closer.
You're good. You're on.
All right. Okay, everybody, we are live at the Kennedy Center. And as you can see behind me, we have a live camera in front of the sign that right now still says Donald Trump and John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. But you can see in this shot behind me, as you can see, that the crews are also setting up at this moment to, we think, remove Donald Trump's name from the building. This is going to be a very exciting moment. A lot of people in the local arts community have been waiting for this to happen. A lot of people in the pro-democracy community have been waiting for this to happen. We've been waiting for this to happen. We've been reporting on this nonstop. I'm going to go across the street here and give you guys a look at this. We're live on all of our platforms right now. And just to give you a sense as to how this is going to go down, I pulled up here just a short while ago, and you can see the media is out here, and you can see other folks are out here as well. They're just onlookers who have been here day after day after day checking on this. But yeah, no, we are very much live on the scene as it's happening right now. And you can see these crews behind me. Well, they're about to be behind me. And forgive me because it is blazing hot out there now. I could barely see what's happening. You can see behind me that these crews are now setting up at this moment to take Donald Trump's name off the Kennedy Center. And I suspect, because this has been such a big story here in Washington, that you're going to see a big crowd forming here in the next several hours. This is going to take a few hours. I was just talking to some folks with the Hands Off the Arts community. They have very heroically been providing a live feed of what's been happening over here, just because they wanted to catch the very moment when this name comes down. And they've been keeping close tabs on this, and they've been saying, okay, this may take a few hours. So what we're going to do is we're going to be down here for pretty much throughout the day. I'm not sure my team is excited about this. It's a little hot. It's about 95 degrees in Washington right now, but I'm going to also give you a sense, guys, as to how this is all shaping up. Our brethren in the news media are here as well. I don't know, are they our brethren? They're in the corporate media, but the legacy media is here also covering this. But and also some folks in the independent media as well. But basically what you're going to see in the next several hours, you're going to see the scaffolding at least be in place to take his name down. All right, and so let's see, you can see this right now behind me. See members of the news media behind me as well. And forgive us if there are any little technical things that happen throughout the coverage here, but we're doing this. How's it looking so far? We're looking okay?
Good. Yeah,
We're good. Okay, just checking with my producer Sam. He's down here as well. And so, I mean, here's the long and the short of what we've been seeing over the last several hours. Yesterday, it was being reported that the Kennedy Center board had voted to essentially appeal the removal of Trump's name from the Kennedy Center. And about a week ago, you might remember this because we did this on the show, the general counsel for the Kennedy Center sent a notification to the staff, basically a memo saying that we got to get Trump's name off of everything. And so one of the things that we had seen before that happened was there were signs around the Kennedy Center grounds that had Trump's name on it. You could see these buses going by that had it would say the Trump Kennedy Center. And this may be the last thing to fall. And it's very, as I've been describing, it's very much like a Berlin Wall coming down moment. And it's happening. I mean, think about the magnitude of this. This is happening on the same weekend that Donald Trump is celebrating his 80th birthday and is having a UFC cage match over on the grounds of the White House and everything. And so this is a humbling moment. Make no mistake here. For the wannabe tyrant, the wannabe dictator, this is a very humbling moment because he thought he could just thumb his nose at the nation's capital, at the members of Congress who have been saying, listen, you can't just throw your name on things around D.C. Congress voted to establish the Kennedy Center and so on. You can't just put your name on it. He's been thumbing his nose at all of that. And now it's going to have to come down, according to a federal judge ruled just in the last couple of weeks that the name has to come down and so on. And so, you know, we'll see how this plays out. Now, this is Donald Trump that we're talking about here. And so the question becomes, does he try to do something at the last second here? Maybe he'll come out personally and strap himself to the scaffolding here. Who knows? And say, you can't tear this name down. But as you can see right now, these workers are right now assembling the scaffolding. And it looks very much like the scene that we saw, gosh, it was less than a year ago, I believe, when they put his name up. The scaffolding looked very much like this. There was also the giant blue tarp. We can show some of that later. There's this giant blue tarp that they had up on these columns to sort of prevent the media from seeing what was going on here. But this is very much happening live, folks. This is happening as we speak. And as the word gets out, as the word gets going here, I think you're going to see more and more Washingtonians come down here because, I mean, one of the things that we've seen, this is represented by this group, Hands Off the Arts, is this was very much an affront to people who care about the Kennedy Center. This has been a local institution in the nation's capital for, gosh, the last 50 years or so. Opened up, I believe, the year I was born, if I'm not mistaken, 1971. I'll have to go back. But so this has been around for a very long time. And I can just tell you my own personal stories. I mean, I remember taking dates to the Kennedy Center when I was in my 20s, in the 90s, and so on. And so this is a beloved institution, and it is a memorial. I mean, keep in mind, folks, this is a memorial to a president, John F. Kennedy, who was assassinated. It's a living memorial because of John F. Kennedy and the Kennedy family's commitment to the arts that has been standing proudly as a bastion for the arts over the last half century or so. And of course, Donald Trump comes along, gets elected the second time. He's grumpy with everybody in D.C. He's pissed off because, he doesn't like the fact that he was beaten in 2020 and so on. And as he was saying during the 2024 campaign, I am your revenge, I am your retribution. He's throwing his name on everything around town out of spite. He's trying to do things to leave remembrances of him behind should he leave the scene. And this is one of those examples of that. Donald Trump has never been known as any kind of champion for the art, any kind of defender of the arts. If anything, he has bashed artists over the years. Our friend of the program, Rosie O'Donnell. I mean, the list goes on and on. Artists that Donald Trump has trashed over the years. So he's no friend of the arts. And so he thinks it's amusing. It's amusing to him to put his name on an institution like the Kennedy Center. And looks like our friend Olivia Troy might be standing by. Oh my goodness, if that is true, that is going to be amazing. Whenever Olivia's ready, put her on, I say. We'll have Olivia on, and she can talk about this as well. And as somebody who's been in the Washington, D.C. area a long time, she knows how beloved this institution is. But as I've been saying, if you're just joining us in the last several minutes, yes, I've been off. We talk about that later. But, oh, you got a camera going? Sorry about that. But as we've been saying over the last several minutes, workers are right now building scaffolding to take Donald Trump's name off of Kennedy Center. So I'm going to go back across the street here. Let's go back across the street. Got a nice lady here who has a sign that says JFK, not DJT. Look at that. Very, very nice sign there. Well done. And I guess you've been out here for some time waiting for this to happen too.
I've been here all week
Wow. And because
I care about the arts, because I don't like seeing our beautiful performing arts center defiled with that word up on it.
And it's
Am
certainly.
I on the radio or anything?
Oh no, my name's Jim Acosta. I'm doing a podcast right now.
Oh, okay.
To Substack.
That's fine.
And a lot of folks have been considering this to be a desecration.
Yes, it is an absolutely. Absolutely.
The presence of his name up there is the desecration, not the removing of it.
Yeah. Well, it looks like it's coming down.
Well, it's not. I mean, I assume you know this. That's just the board is hoping for a court order giving them a stay, so to speak. Oh, that's
But if they don't get the stay,
If they don't get the state, they have to be prepared to take that down. So that's why they're putting up really good quality
I think they're
security.
preparing for the
They're,
event.
they're preparing. Yes, and everyone in the building is hoping that they take it down. Yeah. Including the security guards, I can assure you. And all the bus drivers, the parking lot people, the musicians, everyone wants that name off.
As soon as the scaffold's built.
And then maybe it could come back to life.
Yes, and then I'll renew my subscription, absolutely.
Absolutely, you've got to support our
I can't
wonderful
support-
SSO. I
Yeah,
know, I know.
yeah, and I miss it.
Can I tell you one point that keeps
Sure,
me lost in the
please.
shuffle? The National Symphony Orchestra still doesn't have its budget for 26-27 approved. They can't announce and plan their next season without their budget being approved by the Kennedy Center Board. And the Kennedy Center Board has not done diddly. They had a meeting yesterday. I was hoping that they would approve the MSO budget. They did not. All they did was pander to Trump's tantrums.
And how do you know all this? You're with Hands Off the Arts, and you work at the Kennedy Center.
I am a long ago former staff member. I worked for the MSO in Slava Rostropovich years. And the Kennedy Center and the NSO are very dear to my heart, and that's why I've been out here all week.
Good for you. Love the sign. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. And we're just walking around here, keeping an eye on the scene. I might go back to the shade a little bit. I've got to cross the street. But my friend Olivia Troy, is she ready yet? Can we bring Olivia in yet, or? Not sure she's quite ready just yet, but she will be soon. I'm going to come back over here, and we can be here for a while, guys. This is our live coverage of the removal, what we think will be the removal of Donald Trump's name from the Kennedy Center. And I think I've got to fix something on my audio at some point. Audio's fine. Oh, my producer says audio's fine. Okay, good. Could we hear the nice lady that I was just speaking to? You could. Oh, excellent. I'm not sure these AirPods are working, but I could be wrong. But yeah, so for folks, my executive producer, Matt says yes. You could hear that nice lady who we were speaking to a few moments ago. And that's the other part of this, folks, is you can see I'm across the street now just getting in the shade because, we might be here for the long haul. But as we were just discussing, you can see in this wide shot, one of these wide shots that you're looking at right now, some of the folks who've been hanging out in front of the Kennedy Center. We're not going to call it the Trump Kennedy Center. We haven't done that from the beginning. Not going to do it now. These folks who are hanging out in front of the Kennedy Center, they're with the group Hands Off the Arts. They've been out here all week, keeping an eye on all of this. And I suspect if this is going to happen, I got to think that this is going to turn into a party down. What do we have Olivia yet or not yet? Let's see. I think that's my producer, Sam, who's down there across the street, looking at his live picture too. But this is very exciting, folks. I mean, think about what we're witnessing right now and what it took to get to this moment. This started with Donald Trump and Rick Grinnell, who was the head of the Kennedy Center. They put in front of the leadership of the Kennedy Center, even though he had no business running the Kennedy Center, no arts experience or anything. They just unilaterally told the workers here to slap his name on the Kennedy Center. And it looks like we're getting some comments from some folks right now that we need a bipartisan board for the Kennedy Center. It's true. And listen, I've talked about this on the show, and I'll say it again here. You're going to need a whole slew of reforms for this federal government when Donald Trump leaves the seat. And one of the smaller ones, but necessary ones, is that the leadership, the way we run the Kennedy Center, the way we run federal institutions and buildings around Washington, D.C., all of it's going to need reform here, because you cannot have a president of the United States who's going loco and can't stay awake in the Oval Office, can't stay awake during cabinet meetings, constantly falling asleep. He obviously mentally compromised in some way. I mean, we all get tired, but my goodness, you can't have a cognitively declined president who say, well, I'm just going to put my name on whatever I want around Washington, D.C. This is supposed to be a democracy.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Man just ran by and said, congratulations. I don't congratulate me, congratulate all of us. This is going to be a major day in the life and times of this democracy as we're approaching the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. This is a nice little gift. Is it the same thing as seeing a wannabe tyrant leaving the scene? I know that. Yes, that's not the case, of course not. But what's important about this is that symbolically, what this means is that our democracy matters. That when a court says you got to take the name down, you got to take the name down. And let's hope that that's what the Kennedy Center is about to do. Now, we did hear a word of caution from one of the folks here from Hands Off the Arts a few moments ago, saying maybe they're just preparing in case they just finally give up. That may be the case. So I've been trying to show you guys. Hopefully, I don't get it out of here. Oh, is that Olivia? Olivia's there. She's standing by. Hi, Olivia. I couldn't take too much time off. Can you hear me okay? Olivia?
How are you?
I'm great. How are you? Can you hear me, Olivia? Can Olivia hear me? Doesn't look like she can. Okay. I'm going to keep talking here. I think this is working. I'll keep talking here. But basically, until we get Olivia, I'm going to show folks one of the ways in which this Kennedy Center has been changing. Just last week, I was showing you guys how the buses would say Trump Kennedy Center. They had slapped his name obnoxiously on the buses. And now it just says Kennedy Center. Now it just says the Kennedy Center on the bus. Okay, so they have done that. They have changed that. So now this just says the Kennedy Center. That has changed. But as for the building still has Donald Trump's name. The Kennedy Center building still has Donald Trump's name on it. And is Olivia with me live now? Olivia, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hey, great. This is amazing. Okay. The wonders of modern technology. I'm going to come over here in the shade a little bit so I don't die here. But
It's really
how are
hot.
you doing?
Please
It's hot.
hydrate, Jim. Please hydrate.
I have been hydrating and operating this little robotic camera doohickey thing, which may or may not be doing a great job. Operator error, as we often say. Never let the correspondent handle the equipment. But Olivia, what does this mean to you? Seeing these workers, we think, setting up to remove Trump's name. And you can see my producer, Sam, has a different shot there. It looks a little closer up. You can really see that scaffolding go up. But Olivia, it looks like it's coming down. What do you think?
I mean, honestly, it can't come down soon enough. I know so many people. You and I have had conversations over the past year about a lot of the musicians and performers that we know that have really been impacted by this. And my heart is with them as all of this plays out. I know a lot of the Kennedy Center musicians and symphony musicians and opera. And I know it's just been a painful year for all these artists. And so I've literally every day I've been checking to see when they're going to do scaffolding, when they're actually going to show up to take it down. And it's interesting. I feel like they're slow rolling the process when it comes to removing his name on the actual building, right? It's easier to take it down everywhere else. But I feel like if it were up to him, he'd just sort of pretend that it's going to take months to do this. So, I'm anxiously awaiting. I'm enjoying seeing you there. I'm glad that you're on the ground there.
I couldn't miss
As a newly
this.
married man, if I may say so.
Oh, pshaw. Maybe we'll go on a date here. Maybe we can do a double date down here after this thing is rebranded appropriately the Kennedy Center. We'll do a double date.
I mean, I think that's the thing. I think sort of the umbrella over all of this, though, is that, who knows what it's going to look like in terms of the programming and kind of getting this entire system back on track. I don't see that happening anytime soon. And they've already lost, entities like the National Opera there. I mean, it's just heartbreaking, but I feel like at least this is round one of one win, right? In
Exactly.
terms of preserving it back and getting it back to what this, monument, because it is a monument, is, and it is a monument to Kennedy. And that's the only name that should be up there.
That's exactly right. And I think it was just reported a little while ago by the New York Times that the National Opera is trying to get, I think, $17 million or something back from the Kennedy Center because, like everything with Donald Trump, they're stiffing the contractors. They don't want to pay their bills. They don't want to pay what's owed to people. And it's typical Trump. And so, and that is also, I guess, symbolic of what we're seeing down here too. He is well known for running things into the ground. He didn't run America into the ground, although he almost did the first time around with COVID. But the second time around, if we see institutions like the Kennedy Center have these kinds of technical problems where the financing gets to the point where they've got to shut it down, that that is going to be very difficult for this community to absorb, for the nation's capital community to absorb. How's everything?
Yeah, and
Okay.
I've
Closer.
All right, hang on. I'm coming back, Olivia, because I might have,
You're the only two.
as I was saying earlier, never let the correspondent handle the equipment, but you can still hear me, so that's okay.
I can hear you. Can anyone else?
I think everybody else can hear us. We're good. We're good.
Okay. This is what happens when you produce and take your own show on the road, Jim. This is why we
I
cannot
know.
let you
I'm
go rogue
telling
like
you.
this. I know.
I know, but listen, we've got a lot of people tuning in right now, so this is important stuff. We're on all the platforms, or as many as we can, without breaking the internet. And this is what the American people want to see, Olivia. You and I'm a little longer in the tooth than you are, but I remember vividly when the Berlin Wall came down, and people will say, "Oh, Jim, don't go and say that this is like the Berlin Wall coming down." Symbolically, I think it's right up there. And feel free to push back on me. Symbolically, it's right up there because this is somebody and Donald Trump who has tried to rule over this country like a tyrant, rule over this country like a dictator, has put this country through tremendous trauma. And to see his name and see slapped his name obnoxiously on the Kennedy Center and so on, to see that come down to me, Olivia, is a very symbolic moment. And it says to me that, yes, nature can be healing, but so can democracy.
Yeah, I think it's also important because it means that we can't give up the fight.
Yeah.
I think, right, this is why we have to continue every day, even though it's been a long process in this whole entire thing. But I understand your sentiment on where you're coming from on it, because if it were up to Trump, like everything would be labeled Trump, right? He's attempting that. I mean, I'm
Yes.
surprised that the entire Washington, D.C. area isn't labeled with a Trump hotel stamp across it on the map. I mean, this is the kind of thing that he has been wanting to do. And
Yep.
to get to your point, to get back about the financial damage as well that has been done here and what's happening with the funds. I mean, again, blatant corruption and links here of organizations that have spent years raising funds and money for the arts. The arts play an enormous role in society. So I think
Yeah.
to see that happening, that's really concerning, right? And they have every right to get those funds back, especially because they've lost their home, they've lost the audiences. And I think to your message of, taking down the Berlin Wall and watching this monument right now get restored back to the way it belongs, it's significant because I'm thinking,
Yeah.
when you look at that and what it stands for, I think it's important to preserve these institutions as they are. And I think the one thing to remember that I've written about in the past, because I really, as you know, I'm really passionate about music and the arts. And I care a lot about it because it is a pillar of democracy and it is one of the freedoms. It's just sort of like the arts, culture, press. It's all things that authoritarian and authoritarian like figures tend to target. That
Bingo.
is usually the places where they target the most because they erode at that and they want to control everything and they don't want freedom of expression. And so I think that is so significant right now is that this is restoring one of the freedoms of expression that we have by putting back this monument back together the way it should be, because that's what it represents overall.
That's exactly right. And that's what dictatorships do, right? That's what authoritarian, autocratic regimes try to do. They go after the press, they go after the artists, they go after symbolic institutions in a way to intimidate people. That way, people get the message. Oh, we better go along with what the dictator wants, or we'll be next, or our segment of the society will be next. And I used to warn about this all the time during the first administration. I would say, yeah, of course he's going after the press first. That was something that
Right.
Steve Bannon actually told me one time. We're going to go after you guys first. They go after the press first. They go after artists first because it sends a message to everybody else. But I think that there's something even more primal with Donald Trump sticking his name on the Kennedy Center.
Mhm.
I think he's, I think he is gone loco. And, it's like this whole reflecting pool project and wanting to build the arch, putting his name on the U.S. Institute of Peace. There's something obviously unhinged about it. And, folks want to tiptoe around it because he's so litigious and he just wants to sue the shit out of everybody and so on. But it's just goofy and bonkers and nutso, and it doesn't make sense to slap your name on the Kennedy Center. And people see that, Olivia, and they think, my God, what's happening to our society? What's happening to the world if the president of the United States is so out of his mind that he's just sticking his name on things and vandalizing things like Kennedy Center? I guess that's why it means so much to me to see it come down, because it's a restoration of some measure of sanity. I'm not saying, I don't want people to get the wrong idea and say, oh, this wipes the slate clean and makes everything normal and fine again. Of course not. Nobody's saying
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
it's a tiny little step in that direction, if I may say.
No, I agree. And look, I
Yeah.
mean, what the way this played out was completely disrespectful to a very significant historic public figure. Right?
Yes.
I mean, this is sort of the erasing of history here. And Kennedy was beloved, I would say, across party lines. I mean, there are a lot of people I knew plenty of Republicans that actually love Kennedy. They love the Kennedy family and they respect the legacy. And
Yeah.
that's why this was so grotesque. I mean, but to think about what is happening here and the message and the way we're overlaying things across DC and the way we are destroying monuments and we're destroying them all, and we have a UFC cage set up at the White House. It's
Right.
going to happen this weekend. Just to entertain you all and amuse you, my 82-year-old mother was watching TV last night after we watched the Mexico World Cup game together. And
Yes.
she was super confused because I don't think she really understands the UFC. You know my mom, Jim. And my mom goes, why did they put a roller coaster up at the White House? With a straight face, by the way. She was so confused. And she was like,
It looks
what's
like it's
going
Six
on with the
Flags.
carnival? Yes. She
Yes.
was like, what is going on with the carnival at the White House? And I was like, Mom, well, that's, that is the circus. That is actually the everyday thing. It's funny
Oh,
that she
boy.
said it that way, right? But I mean, to think about that, I'm not against having sports events at the White House, but I think
Yeah.
the fact this monstrosity of an entity that's been built there with the destruction of the historic wings of the White House for, to be replaced someday with this ballroom. And now we've got
Yep.
this thing set up. I mean, you can have sports events and honor them. I'm not against completely UFC if you want to do that. But also, again, it also comes with the great grift and the corruption of how much people are going to be paying to see that cage match on the lawn there, which is just crazy at the White House. Like, just sort of the historic viewpoint of this, right? And just blatant just ugliness of it, honestly. Like, I mean, it's just kind of all part of the same sort of effort, I think, when it comes to Donald Trump, and just the ugliness of it all, of just the stuff that he has done to our nation's capital.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And I just think that it says to me that, his putting the name up there, it just says to me he can just do whatever he wants, right? That there's no price to be paid, that, he literally can just act dictator, and people say, oh, why say things like that? So ridiculous, so crazy, that kind of thing. But this is what, if you listen to people like Ruth Ben-Ghiat, she'll tell you this is what dictators do. They do stuff like this. And it seems to me, there was this decision, I guess the board of the Kennedy Center, if you want to call it that, it's kind of a joke, right? He's put his cronies on it and so on. But, apparently they voted yesterday to appeal this to a judge or to, get a stay from a judge so they don't take his
Can
name
you
down.
hear me?
Oh, Olivia, can you hear me? Uh-oh, hang on. Hang on, I may have done it to myself. Hang on here. Hang on, Olivia. Olivia, can you hear me now?
I can. We're
You can hear me
back.
now? Okay. Okay, we're back. So this is we're
Technical
doing this.
difficulties in progress.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I will tell you right now, speaking of technical difficulties, the crews that are under the scaffolding, hopefully this is their lunch break, and they didn't get a call from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue saying, "Oh, stop it! Don't take it down! Don't take it down." Maybe he's having Todd Blanche
Look,
get involved or something like that.
I'm happy to support union rules, and I'm not a member of the union, but I'm happy to comply with their break, and I'm happy to go down there and help take it down myself. So like somebody
Exactly.
just hold the ladder. Somebody just hold the ladder, and I am happy to be in this heat, and
Give you
I
a
will help.
boost.
Yes,
I'll give you a
If
boost.
you can hold the ladder for me, Jim, because I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty petite. If you could just hold it still, I am happy to climb up there and give it a whirl and do my best. And I promise you, I will take down some letters.
No, but I was just saying this, and I think my AirPods went schizo or something. But that the board, I guess, put up this, appeal last night, a request to the judge for a stay, so his name doesn't come down. But this is what authoritarian leaders do when it's getting close to the end. They dig their heels in, they put their nails in, and they try to avoid things like this. But Olivia, think about this: this happening on the eve of his 80th birthday. That's
I was
gotta
just
piss him
gonna
off.
say that. I was literally just thinking about that. I was like, hey, by the way, we haven't talked about the fact
We haven't talked
that
about it.
oh, he's pissed.
He's pissed.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be
he's
surprised if
angry.
he is on the phone with somebody, or people at the White House are on the phone right now. Maybe Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan will report on this, that he's furious. He's throw.
Yep. Oh, you're freezing up on us.
From happening at the last second.
There you are.
Am I freezing up on you
No,
again? Somebody
that
tried to
would not
call.
be
I think it was,
surprising.
I
I
might
could
have been
see
Steve
him being
Chung. Who
very
knows?
angry.
But
I could see him be very angry.
I can see him
for
being
sure.
very angry.
Yeah.
They're going to try to
And who
stop
knows?
this from happening.
Maybe that's the pause.
They might.
Maybe those people have been
Maybe that's
pulled
the
away.
pause.
And
They saw us
honestly,
go
can
live,
you blame
Olivia.
the workers? I'm worried about the workers. I'm like, what's happening to them? The poor workers are just like, man, do I keep my job? Like, what's happening to me? Like, I'm just trying to survive the
It's
heat
so true.
here, trying to get this job done. It's just my job. And they're
It's so
probably
true.
scared. They're probably like, is today a day I get fired for doing what I'm supposed to be doing, because I'm trying to comply with the law as well.
No, I know, and these days, under in the Trump economy, it's hard to have a job. It's hard to keep a job these days, and so these folks don't want to mess with that. Let's hope it's in the lunchtime time frame. Let's just say, and so maybe they're just taking a quick little break, getting a sandwich in before they get back to work. But this is the closest I've seen, Olivia, to them actually taking his damn name down. And we were out here the day that it happened. And I had people from the Kennedy Center, from the Trump, let's just put it this way, from the Trump administration, somebody I remember from the Trump 1.0, came out and yelled at me for being on the Kennedy Center property. And I'm like,
I remember that.
I'm like, excuse me, this is public property. Last time I checked, this is public property. And how do they know? How do they know I'm not going in there to buy some tickets to Moulin Rouge, or with the 5 other people who will be in the audience? And that's the other thing, Olivia, is they chased off all these shows.
Yes.
They chased off all these great shows and great artists. Ben Folds, the great Ben Folds, says, I don't want to perform at the Kennedy Center with that guy's name on it. And that's the real damage that's been done to this institution.
Yeah, and he just released I don't know if you saw this. I know you had some life events happening, but he released a statement about the symphony and his concern for them, and his concern about funding for them, and how he really wants to, shine the spotlight on it and remind people that there's been some significant damage here done to these entities, that this was their home. And so it's hard. They've lost the programming there. This is their livelihoods. But also it's their passion and it is their art, right? And so I think that's just what's so hard to see is that like all of this has kind of been eroded, and to build the place back up, I can't wait till this guy is out of office, because I hope, please sign me up. We'll volunteer. We'll go there. We'll help build this back up and bring people back in and get this to the way it was. But it's
That's
just
right.
really heartbreaking. Yeah.
No, and
Small
and
steps though. Small baby steps.
But
We'll
I
take
mean,
the name
Olivia,
down.
I mean, and this is just one thing, and I can probably hear some of the comments from the people at home who are saying, "Well, Jim, what about the arch?" He wants to build
Yes.
this massive monstrosity of an arch that nobody wants. Nobody except Donald Trump has said, "Let's build an arch right outside Arlington National Cemetery." But for people who aren't from Washington, D.C., may not be familiar with the landscape here, across the Potomac River is Arlington National Cemetery, very close to where I'm standing right now at the Kennedy Center. I could almost walk to it from here. I could.
Yep.
You go over the Memorial Bridge, the back of the Lincoln Memorial takes you over the Memorial Bridge towards Arlington National Cemetery, and there's a giant traffic circle there. And in that traffic circle, Trump wants to build this giant, crazy arch. And people have noticed how, the arch sort of like frames up Robert E. Lee's, grave and all this stuff and so on. But the veterans groups are really pissed about that, because he took nothing into consideration in terms of how that might obscure the entrance to hallowed ground. I mean, I have relatives buried there. Lots of people have relatives who are in the military who are buried there. And it's an insult. And so everything he does is just, he wants to do it. And he doesn't give a shit. And he just does it, like putting his damn name on the Kennedy Center. And so all
And
of
how
those
much
things
money?
have to be taken into
How much
consideration.
money is this costing us?
It's so
You know
true.
what I mean? How much money is
so
this
true.
costing taxpayers? Because that's where I get a rate with so many people who are struggling
Me
right now
too.
to make ends meet, because we're in an unwanted war. And like,
That's right.
how much money is it costing to enact this UFC thing? How much money is this Trump arch going to cost us? Like, because ultimately it's taxpayers who are footing the bill for things we don't want. Like, we want
That's right.
healthcare. We want like actual hospitals in suburban areas, possibly, so that people don't have to drive 2 miles, right? Like 2 hours,
Yep.
right? Like, I mean, it's just, there's all these things that are happening right now in our country domestically. And the amount of money that is being expended here just to continue to pacify this individual who just wants to see the entire town of DC and possibly the entire country branded in his name. I mean, right? I mean,
Yes.
we have the Trump Institute for Peace now. Remember when he took
What a
over that
joke.
building? It's
Yes.
still branding. Peace? What peace? We're in a war. Like, I mean, like, and it's still, I mean, he took over that building. I mean, so it's just disgusting. I mean, it's just more
Yeah.
of the same. But again,
No,
the
it's
cost that we're expending here is just unbelievable.
no, you're absolutely right. It's so true. And look at what's taking place with the reflecting pool. People say, "Oh, these are small projects. Why do you care?" They spent millions, and we don't know the final toll of what that's going to cost. And it's already being reported that algae blooms are forming in the reflecting pool. So they repainted the whole thing in this crazy ass way with the dark blue paint. And a lot of people warned, well, if you do that, it's going to cause the sun to cook that pool even more, and it could make the algae worse. So they just don't listen to anybody but themselves. And you know this from working in that first administration, Olivia, how you have some rank amateurs, amateurish buffoons, people like Seb Gorka and so on, who work in that administration, and they have no idea what they're doing. But because they sound very matter of fact on a podcast, because they talk a lot of shit and engage in towel snapping, Trump loves them, and he says, "Well, let me have you in charge of the Kennedy Center, or let me put you in charge of the National Counterterrorism Center," because you like to shit talk people online. That's what he wants. But in the meantime, he has turned this nation's capital into a goddamn eyesore, and it's getting worse and worse. I mean, if you go by the White House, I just drove by that yesterday as I was going around looking at all the goofy things he's done. It looks ridiculous. And remember all the people on the far right who were pissed off about Bud Light. Bud Light's one of the sponsors. It's on the signage over at the White House or over at the UFC thing. So the whole thing is just goofy from the start. But okay, one thing I can tell you, Olivia, this is a little development, and just holler if you have to go. I
Let me
don't want to
see.
play streaming
Show us.
hostage here.
Come on,
But
let's see.
the workers are back up on the scaffolding. So let's see if I can use this little robotic thingy here. you can kind of make it out. Why don't we just do this? We'll just go across the street and show you. As one of my old news directors used to say, don't say it, show it. So we're gonna go across the street. I'm gonna try not to get hit by a car here. And the scaffolding is once again going back up here at the Kennedy Center. Olivia, I can only imagine Donald Trump right now. He's throwing his Big Mac against the wall. The French fries are flying. The ketchup is being spilled. Ketchup is being spilled as we speak. But I can just show you behind
Well,
me. Those workers were
He's
stopping.
probably
It
even
looks
more
like
pissed that you're there. Let's be clear.
he
He's probably even more pissed off that you're actually on the grounds right now. So
I mean, if he wants to jump on, we can give him the link. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't do that. But I mean, and we could say, okay, we have a Twitter follower saying, my 5-year-old grandson heard me say they're about to take his name down and he yelled, yay, smartest kid I know. This is from Cindy J. Thank you for your comment. We're on all the platforms right now, Olivia, as many as we could cram into one
Good.
box here. But I can hear the clanging of the scaffolding equipment behind me, which is it's like music to my ears. This is like the symphony. This is the National Symphony Orchestra of the exterior of the Kennedy Center that's playing behind me. You could say it like that. And the banging of the metal pipes and whatnot as they build this thing, it's like a symphony. Olivia, it's a beautiful thing.
Well, this is good.
And
The music's back. The music's back.
Yes, the music is back. And do I have Chris from Center of the Hands Off the Arts? I might have Chris from Hands Off the Arts joining me in just a few moments. We're trying to see if we can get a gentleman from Hands Off the Arts. Now, the folks at Hands Off the Arts, just so you know, Olivia, they have been running, and you know this because you're such an astute Washingtonian, they have been running a live feed of the Kennedy Center. And again, for folks tuning in, we're never going to call it the Trump Kennedy Center. We're calling it the Kennedy Center. They've been keeping a live feed of this going for, I don't know, I think a couple of days or something. I've been off, so I don't have an exact amount of time. And I think one of these nice folks are going to join me in just a few seconds here to tell. Oh, there he is.
There he
Is
is.
that Chris from Hands Off the Arts? Do I have it correct, Chris?
Yeah, that's right. Hey, Jim.
Hey, good to see you. You're across the street from where I'm at. You're seeing what I'm seeing. What do you think about all this? And Olivia, if you have to go, it's totally fine. But if you want to stay, I'll keep you. But Chris, with Hands Off the Arts, tell us about why you guys have been so involved in keeping tabs on the removal of Trump's name.
Yeah, this is very deeply personal to us as Washingtonians, but also we live here. My wife worked here and was fired to be replaced with some political goon. My friends were organizing a union and they were fired for that work because they wanted to stand up for themselves against what was going on. So we started this Hands Off the Arts group first to support that union effort. But as that got tougher and tougher, we started to organize the community to come out here, and especially when they said they were going to close the center, to come out here every week and show the world that, like, we're pissed. No one wants this. No one in America voted. Not a single person in America voted to make it the Trump Kennedy Center. And then it was just extra despicable when they added the president's name, right or wrong, if you like him or not. It's a president who died serving his country, Kennedy, and a veteran. And
Right.
we've just been so fired up by that. Hundreds of people have signed up to volunteer. We have been plucky and starting a live stream with kind of our friends that we've been organizing with. And we're happy to show the city and the world that DC is fighting for the Kennedy Center.
Yeah, and Chris, there's been real damage done to the Kennedy Center. I mean, people don't really show up for the shows anymore. Entire shows have been pulling out. You have institutions like the orchestra, the opera that have been hurting as a result of this. Can you talk about that a little bit, as best as you can? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I mean, artists have been really hurting as a result of this.
Yeah, I mean, I think so much of the public made their choice. A lot of the public chose not to go. We at Hands Off the Arts have been telling folks, like, support the art that you feel is meaningful to you. And really, there's still a lot of workers in the center, mostly union workers, that we really wanted to make sure that we still, tell folks that they should support them if they can. But the damage done, I'm hopeful that it can change, right? I mean, Trump
Me too.
chickens out and changes things all the time. And I think you know, look at the vote that the board took yesterday. They they didn't vote to close the center. They could have re-voted, and it would have had it on pretty good authority to close it again. Well, what did they vote
Interesting.
for? They voted to keep to appeal the name change. That's all they care about. That's all the president cares about. It's not what's happening abroad. It's not what's happening here with people's like livelihoods or the jobs he's hurting at this center. Like, it's just he wants his name on the damn building. And so that's why, again, it's extra sweet that if it comes off today.
No question about it. And I mean, as you were just speaking there, Chris, one of the buses for the Kennedy Center went by, and on the Kennedy Center bus, it says the Kennedy Center on it. I was out here, I think it was a week ago or so, and it said the Trump Kennedy Center. And so they have been taking his name off of certain things. But it looks to me that the one thing that he's really freaked out about, or that they're freaked out about, is that there's going to be television coverage and news coverage of his name coming off of the building. And they must know that that is freaking him out. That's my guess.
Yeah, I think, and they blew that, right? I mean, they blew that, and surprise, Donald Trump played this pretty badly. But I think,
Yep.
At the end of the day, like, this belongs, like, this is a place that belongs to the country. It is a memorial to a president who died. But like, to the people of DC and the DMV, like, this is where we go to shows. This is where our friends work or perform. Like, there's like no higher honor. Or like, every week we've been doing this. We do a protest every Friday at 6:30 on the steps of the Kennedy Center. We're gonna do one today.
Amazing.
Every week someone tells me a story of their kid performing, or them performing, or some show that's really mattered to them. And it matters way more to us in the DMV than I think Trump and the rest of the country kind of understands. And I think they were surprised that people willing to fight for it, that Jane Fonda came here, and you, Jim, you came and you spoke about
I did. Yep.
about the symbolism of taking over this place. And so I hope they also understand that the world really wants to see the symbolism of it coming down too.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, thank you so much for speaking to us, and kudos to your group, Hands Off the Arts. Amazing that you're going to be out here later today. And, thank you for what you do. Really appreciate it. And I hope to join you again later on today when this is actually coming down. We hope. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Thanks all. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. And Olivia's back with me, and Steve Schmidt is back with me. And Steve, great to see you, my friend, of the Warning and the Save America movement. I can think of one thing that goes towards saving America, and that is taking Donald Trump's name off of the Kennedy Center. It should have never been on the Kennedy Center, Steve. I don't know if, can you hear me? What are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts in this moment, my friend?
Good to see you. Congratulations, Jim.
You bet. Thank you.
And good to see you, Olivia. Jim, if I could just read something quickly. It's from a speech that John Kennedy delivered on October 26th of 1963 at Amherst College. And he was honoring Robert Frost. And this is why this matters. All fascists seek to dominate over a society's conception of art. And we could talk about that for hours. But John Kennedy explained it perfectly. He said, our national strength matters, but the spirit which informs and controls our strength matters just as much. This was the special significance of Robert Frost. He brought an unsparing instinct for reality to bear on the platitudes and pieties of society. His sense of the human tragedy fortified him against self-deception and easy consolation. I have been, he wrote, once acquainted with the night. And because he knew the midnight as well as the high noon, because he understood the ordeal as well as the triumph of the human spirit, he gave his age strength in which to overcome despair. At bottom, he held a deep faith in the spirit of man, and it is hardly an accident that Robert Frost coupled poetry and power, for he saw poetry as the means of saving power from itself. When power leads men towards arrogance, poetry reminds him of his limitations. When power narrows the areas of man's concern, poetry reminds him of the richness and diversity of his existence. When power corrupts, poetry cleanses. For art establishes the basic human truth, which must serve as the touchstone of our judgment. The artist, however faithful to his personal vision of reality, becomes the last champion of the individual mind and sensibility against an intrusive society and an officious state. The great artist is thus a solitary figure. He has, as Frost said, a lover's quarrel with the world. In pursuing his perceptions of reality, he must often sail against the currents of his time. This is not a popular role. If Robert Frost was much honored in his lifetime, it was because a good many preferred to ignore his darker truths. Yet in retrospect, we see how the artist's fidelity has strengthened the fiber of our national life. Our power as a society comes from the richness and depth of our culture, and one of our greatest sources of power is the American artist. And Trump's attempt to hijack our culture to spoil its richness by imposing his name over a great president was an abomination. And this is an important day when this comes down, and it's a great victory for the American people in an hour of tremendous crisis.
It's so true, Steve, and thank you for reading Frost's words. It's so important in this moment. And Olivia, I mean, you and I were having this conversation too before Steve hopped on, that, and we were hearing this from the Hands Off the Arts folks. That part of what Trump does, and you know this from working in the administration, there's sort of a humiliation exercise that he relishes. He likes to, as Steve was saying earlier, this art of domination, or he thinks of it as an art of domination, but really it's what a weak man does, and he's a tremendously weak individual. But that is how he's like the schoolyard bully. He's tried to dominate the artists over here and dominate the Kennedy Center and federal workers in Washington, D.C. as a way to say, I'm the guy, I'm in charge. And he doesn't get that we all see him as the weak person that he is. But can you speak to that? Because I think that's a big part of this too.
Yeah, I think it's just overall the need for control, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's what it is. And honestly, that's what fascists do. I mean, it's the wanting of control of everything, whether it's control of expression, which I would say is controlling the arts, whether it's obviously what we talked about, press, and also control of how the narrative gets construed and control of one's image. And I think that is what it comes down to for Donald Trump. It's about controlling his image in the way that he sees it, right? And controlling the way it's perceived by others, even though no one sees it the way he does. That's where the joke's on him, right? I mean, I think that's where it's so ridiculous, is that you have this individual that I think this is how he behaves. He thinks it is controlling, he thinks that that's how he garners power, and he remains in power. But no amount of changing the names of institutions that really belong to honor others, no amount of controlling the arts, no amount of displacing people is going to keep him in power. And that's the one thing that I think we can't forget, is that, that's where the disconnect, I think, in his head fails to follow through, is that no matter what he does, I mean, this is America still, as far as we know it.
Yeah, but Steve, the symbolism of seeing these workers, I was saying this earlier before you jumped on, this is like the symphony of the building itself, of the honor of this building being restored as we speak. We're hearing the clanking of the poles, of the scaffolding, and so on. This is a major symbolic moment that's taking place.
This is a very important moment politically. Donald Trump was ordered by a federal judge, take it off, and it's coming down. And one of the great mistakes that politically is being made today, in this moment, this second, is somewhere out there's some Democratic member of Congress or senator or governor or state legislature suggesting that Donald Trump has the power to suspend an election, stop you from voting, and it's pure bunkum, absolute nonsense. He does not. And every time he threatens to turn the sun off, so to speak, it has to be confronted. It has to be challenged in the moment directly with the spirit of defiance. And this is the evidence that we're right. He is not a magical, mystical power unto himself. He has been ordered to comply with the law, and comply with the law he will. And we have to remember that he's in a position to exercise power on the basis of the outcome of a vote, that we have every ability to remove his power by taking away his majorities in the House and the Senate.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, I think he's going to get plucked one petal at a time here. Is how this is going to go down, and this is one of those petals. You know, and Steve, I think the other thing you could speak to is, I mean, the sheer incompetence of the people he puts in charge of major institutions like this. Of course, this is not like the FBI or the NSA or anything like that, but to put Rick Grinnell in charge of the Kennedy Center, I mean, he had no business being in charge of it. He's not somebody with a you know, big, you know, background of experience when it comes to the art and so on. But Trump does this stuff. He puts people in charge of these very important institutions who have no business being there as a way to basically say "fuck you." And
That's all.
Yeah, that's what he tried to do here.
The hallmark of any autocratic movement in society. We have a collection of some of the most villainous figures together in the country's entire history over 250 years, and its most incompetent. And together they are a Star Wars bar scene of perfidy and malevolence that beggars easy description. It's a freak show. The guy who came up with the, hey, Donald, let's send you out as Jesus Christ here on the Twitter. That guy's the National Intelligence Director, right? The grandson of one of Trump's billionaire friends. I honest to goodness,
yeah,
there is some score of tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of Albanians on the streets, including violence against the government, precipitated by Ivanka Trump's delusional statements about the island she discovered after a swim with Jared in the Mediterranean, even though the island's in the Adriatic. I mean, it's like the script of Veep on acid. It's what can you say about it? Ivanka started a revolution.
Yeah. No, I described it once as the bonfire of the insanities.
Yeah.
You know, under Donald Trump, and that's kind of what it is. But it's a buffoonery. There's a buffoonery element to this too, Olivia, and it had to end this way. You knew that the day they put his name on the Kennedy Center, that it was going to come down. And that at some point it was going to be an embarrassment to Donald Trump. And he doesn't have the people around him anymore to tell him this stuff. I mean, just today, I think a judge indefinitely barred the administration from setting up their cockamamie weaponization fund. Because, of course, the federal government is not going to allocate money to criminals and shitheads who attack the Capitol. It's just not going to happen. I guess they could break into Fort Knox and start handing out gold bars or something, but they can't, they're not going to be able to write these checks. And so, of course, you put his name on the Kennedy Center, it's going to come down at some point. He's his own worst enemy. It's always been like this.
Yeah, and it's so ineffective, right? I mean, I think that what are the actual effective policies that Donald Trump has enacted in his office other than grifting and trying to put his name on things and supporting criminals and insurrectionists? I mean, this is really the message of the Trump 2.0, I would say right now. But to get to your point about like sort of the collateral damage here, I'm really curious as to, you know, I know Rick Grinnell was a leader. He's appealing the lawsuit against me again, so I don't want to get sued by him again. But when
Okay,
you
sorry, I
have
won't bring it up.
reckless, incompetent leadership like his, he didn't know how to manage the place. But I'm super curious because we've had a Kennedy Center employee who I think was the former arts curator there, who came forward into this interview with Atlantic, and he talked about sort of the dynamics internally at the Kennedy Center that were so toxic and what was
Right.
happening there. But he also talked about the fact that they were charging six figures to sit in the Kennedy Center when the president was there. So I would like to
Right.
know where did all those millions of dollars go? Did they go into this nonprofit? Because that seems very counterintuitive to what a nonprofit stands for. So I want to know where that money went. I mean, I feel like there should be an oversight effort at some point to trace these funds and figure out when these people went in there. Did it go to these entities that are now hurting, that are fighting for their money to get it back? Did it go to the performers? Did it go to the staff? Did it go to the actual monument itself, which it should have? That's what I want to know now. Step 2, right? Let's take the name down and then let's follow the money.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right, Steve. I mean, Donald Trump, if he has a talent, it is that he will find the grift. He can sniff out that grift like nobody's business, like a guy running a 3-card Monte in Times Square. He knows a good grift, and this was one too. I had that gentleman that you're talking about, Olivia, on my show, and he was talking about how they were selling off the naming rights to certain
crazy.
rooms. It's just these shady crypto kind of guys and whatnot, and it's but this is who he is. This is what this is. This is he's always been, and
Yeah.
he did it to the Kennedy Center.
He's disgusting. As somebody who grew up in New Jersey and is 55, I've been burdened with him present in my life for all of my living memory. And he's always been a con man who's ripped off every little guy he was ever in a deal with. And his political rise is one of the great absurdities and one of the great tragedies in the country's history. And the catastrophe of it all is still unspooling out. Obviously, there won't be anything in the country named for Donald Trump anywhere 20 years from now. He's the worst president in the history. Pissing on his gravesite is going to be a national rite of passage for a generation. He's going to be an absolutely, utterly ignominious figure. The notion, and there's so much generational ego in this, that he would try to dominate John Kennedy, try to put his name over the dominant name of his generation, martyred at the age of 46 by an assassin's bullet. It's just extraordinary, the depths of Trump's narcissism and his sickness and his arrogance. But it's coming down. It's all coming down. He's not going to get to keep the plane. All that bullshit that he's plastered all over the White House, that's coming down.
Yep.
The East Wing will be rebuilt. The grounds will be restored. And the one portrait that probably will never hang in the building, and no one, particularly a Republican president, when we have one again 20 years from now, maybe, will dare to think to put it up.
You're absolutely right. No, it's so true. And I mean, to me, this is this is how it ends for dictators. This is how it ends for tyrants. Their names come off of things. The way that they tried to build themselves up, all of that comes crashing down, and this is another example of that. And I just, and for folks who are watching this over the last, I would say 10 to 15 minutes, they've added another couple of levels to the platform that I guess that will be a part of the scaffolding that will take his name down. And Steve and Olivia, as I've been standing here and sitting here talking to you guys, more and more people have come out here. And I would just say to the people of Washington, D.C. who are watching this is going to be a hell of a party at around, I think, 5 o'clock this afternoon. So you're not going to want to miss this. If,
All right.
forget about going to your local bar for happy hour. happy hour is going to be taking place down at the Kennedy Center. And I know this, Steve and Olivia, you might know this too as a Washingtonian. They used to have these amazing happy hours on the roof of the Kennedy Center. You'd come here and you
Yes.
have drinks with your partner, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, significant other. This used to be such a focal point of this community. And that's the other thing that Steve and Olivia, that he's done here, is he's destroyed one of the most like majestic center points, gathering points of the nation's capital. And it meant so. I used to take dates to Sheer Madness, the little slapstick improv comedy show that they used to have here when I was in my 20s. Basically, because it was the one thing I could afford to take a girlfriend to. You know, it was like $20 to get a ticket. Now I could do Les Mis, I could do things like that. But back then, that was all I could afford. But, you know, that's what this place was. It was the place you took your first date to. It was that kind of a thing. And he has destroyed that for the better almost a year now. And thank goodness this is not, at least we hope at this point, not permanent damage that's been done, Olivia.
Well, there was a series called After Dark that I was a big supporter of, where they would do evening activities and they would bring in DJs like Mason Bates, who's also a composer, and they would do the series with Ben Folds and others. And it was pretty cool because they do happy hour, they'd fill the place. And the important thing about that was also inviting younger generations to engage with the symphony and encourage this art form. And I think that was so sad because that was a movement that was growing and it had grown significantly. And I kudos to the staff that did this there, who really focused on bringing in younger people. They do like the My Tix deals for younger people, for military people to come in and enjoy these events. And it was one of the most fun things you could do when they would host them. And I hope that we can get back to that someday. I hope that there will be people and supporters who will bring back those types of efforts. And then hopefully you, me, and Steve will be hanging out there together. We can
Let's
set
do
up
it.
like, democracy roundtables, discuss the history of what happened here and how it went back. But I think it's important to know that, like, to remind people that this is happening because people didn't give up, right? They filed the lawsuits. People kept showing up. You had the people show up every Friday night at a protest. It was because people refused to give in and cave. And I think that's what is required of us right now as a country. And for those of us who care, is that people just keep showing up and they keep saying, no, we're not okay with this. And they keep taking a stand. And yeah, it's exhausting where, we have several more years of this presidency. But I think this is an important moment that shows that why that matters.
And I may have undersold this, guys. As you were speaking there, Olivia,
Are they moving?
there's one construction worker who has positioned himself under the J of Donald J. Trump. And people were starting to cheer a little bit there. And he was doing like a little jig on the top level of that platform there. And so this could be happening a little sooner than maybe we anticipated. They're also installing these little braces between the scaffolding and the wall of the Kennedy Center. My producer, Sam, is a little closer. So you can see in that bottom left box, we have a little bit of a better shot there. But Steve, I don't know, this thing might be, for folks who want to come down here, you might need to hurry. But Steve, this might be happening sooner than we think. What a moment.
The country is rejecting this like an organ transplant gone bad. This weekend is going to be a humiliation for them. It's going to be, I know that I'm doing a rain dance tonight. I'm praying for light tornadoes, hailstorms, a rise of insects and locusts and fire ants from the ground. It's going to be a crowd of losers, in Donald Trump's words and in his sensibilities, a freak show that gathers there, a gathering of corruption for some mediocre fights. And all of it is now playing out. For his birthday weekend, his name is coming off the Kennedy Center in disgrace with people cheering. All through the weekend, we have at the Save America movement, we have the entire city festooned with Donald Trump posters disparaging him. We'll have projections on buildings. We have postcards that people can download from the saveamerica.org website to send them for his birthday. Write whatever you want on it because you can. And this is great. The American people are not getting in line with this, not getting on board with it. We're defying it all over the country. And that's a big part of who we are as a people. Instead of celebrating this July 4th, we're going to be defying. That's what we're going to be doing by the scores of tens of millions of us.
That's right, Steve. And, I will just tell you, I've gotten a little closer to the Kennedy Center exterior, and I'm doing my best. I feel like Tom Brokaw down at the Berlin Wall, Steve, as they're getting the jackhammers and the pickaxes ready. And I will just tell you, kudos to these construction workers down here who are working in this blazing heat, meeting this deadline. Of course, Donald Trump waited until the final hour of the judge's order to get his name off the Kennedy Center. But you can kind of see these guys are starting to get this scaffolding ready, and it seems like this is going to happen. I can't imagine that they're going to do anything but take this name off of the Kennedy Center. And I will tell you, this is hot work. This is some hard work that's going to take place down here. But as you were saying, Steve, what a moment for our country. I open myself to a little bit of constructive criticism by comparing this to the fall of the Berlin Wall. I grant you that. But for folks who have been feeling, and I talk about this all the time, people who say, oh, you have Trump derangement syndrome. I'm more worried about Trump depression syndrome. And people think, oh, there's just no way. The country's finished. We're going down the tubes. This is how it ends with the guy who bankrupts casinos and the reality TV guy. No, of course not. That's not how it works. And Steve, maybe it happened to be that on this country's 250th birthday, that we had to defy a tyrant, that we had to defy a wannabe dictator who exposed vulnerabilities in our way of government, in our way of life. Maybe that's how it was supposed to happen. Again, please don't hurt me for saying these things, but I just think that there might be a little bit to that.
Well, Frederick Douglass talked about that after the Dred Scott decision. The idea that perhaps just maybe there was some reason for such a terrible event, that it was part of a necessitous link in an unseen chain that would be revealed soon. In that case, that would lead to the downfall of what he called the whole rotten institution of slavery. Listen, when you talk about the Berlin Wall, in this context, it's spot on. It was a tumor, an assault, an affront. The wall held people from their families, divided a city. It was an assertion of power. And the proposition, the political argument around the wall was always deeply linked to tearing it down.
That's right.
And so the question about this has always been, can we get this torn down? You had Rory Kennedy saying, I can't wait until we have a new administration. I'm going to be up there chipping his name off. You know what?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't need to wait till the new administration. And so at every level, this needs opposition. Pam Bondi is gone. Kristi Noem is gone. Corey Lewandowski is gone. It's just not true that there's not been victories against Trump. We're holding our own, and we're going to have a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate. We've got great candidates like Olivia who are out there running. And so in the end, right, all of this is coming down. It's coming down.
It's coming down. And Olivia, I know you have been a big fighter on behalf of this democracy. Steve, I know you've been a big fighter on behalf of this democracy. And that's what it's going to take. It's going to take, I mean, this whole notion of losing our democracy to the couch, it happened in 2024. That did happen, but that was the battle, not the war. And what we're seeing take place down here in Washington, D.C., in our nation's capital, at our beloved Kennedy Center, is a sign that battles can be won. Not every battle is a lost battle. And we're seeing a comment from someone right now. We're watching evil being vanquished, at least in some form, as Agent Orange's name comes down. And Steve, I've been saying this for weeks. I know you felt very strongly about this too, how very important this moment is, how much it means to the American people. I think our news media has undercovered this. I think the corporate legacy media have been afraid to cover it as vigorously as it should have been. And that's why independent media matters, because you and I can come out here, we can do this sort of thing and not worry about, oh, this boss and this suite, is mad that we covered this. We can just go and cover this because it means something to the American people. There are tens of millions, I would wager over 100 million people in this country who are right now cheering the fact that this name is coming down.
That it happened is evidence of an unstable man and an unstable era. The audacity of placing his name on that building above John Kennedy's. It was reprehensible. Reprehensible. And the whole country is looking at the White House and its desecration. And there's a lot of people in the corporate media lecturing, saying, well, that doesn't matter. It does matter. The fact that the Lincoln Memorial is being used is the way it matters. The fact that he's desecrating the mall matters. And it matters because of a very simple principle. It doesn't belong to him. It does not belong to Donald Trump. It belongs to us.
That's right.
And what you know is that while not everybody is riled up about it, there are certainly enough of us that he's not going to succeed in his aggressions, because say whatever else you wish to say about us, we are and continue to be the most defiant people on earth.
Yeah.
We're not getting in line with it.
That's right. And this is, I think, the American people taking some swings at the guy. And I know, you shouldn't say things like that. People are that pissed off about what he has done to our nation's capital. They're that pissed off that he would dare to put his name on the Kennedy Center and put his name above John F. Kennedy's name. How dare he? And that is how people feel. They feel very strongly and passionately. I came down here the day that they did it because I was so pissed off that he would do such a thing. And I know he is a repugnant person and a bad human being, but there are some things that take the cake, and this is a despicable, disgraceful thing to do. And the Kennedy family was understandably mortified. And I came out here and I said, he had vandalized the Kennedy, and he had vandalized Kennedy. But I talked to a nice lady out here who said, no, he desecrated the Kennedy. And that is there. And people say, oh, you get so emotional. Why get so? People should get emotional about this. They should get pissed off about this man coming after our democracy, coming after vulnerable communities, coming after our migrants, coming after our elections, coming after our institutions like the Kennedy Center. This stuff matters. And I think one of the problems that we've had, Olivia, is that people haven't been pissed off enough about this stuff.
Yeah, because each step actually erodes something in our country, right? That it's the erosion of norms. And it's also, the reason this is such a big deal is because it's a symbol that no one person is bigger than history. And that's what this monument stands for. And I think, to your comparison to the Berlin Wall, I think that's the one thing that both things symbolize, is that you can't erase history. And you take things down, and it is really about freedom and what it is. And so I think looking at this, for some reason, probably just because I was around this circle quite a bit, one of the things that I did when Donald Trump entered office again was that I actually took a picture next to the Kennedy bus in the Kennedy Center. I went to a performance there, and I have this picture, and I posted it, I remember, publicly on social media. And I said, I feel like I have to do this because I'm worried. And I said, before he replaces it with a bust of his own. And
Mm,
I just had
you
this
nailed it.
feeling that it was such a significant place for everyone and for our country. And so I just had this feeling that it was going to be certainly a target of his, because it would be somewhere where I think in his mind, I think he envisioned people coming in and gathering so that he could be the king on the throne in the balcony, waving at all the peasants and saying hello while they gathered around for attention to him, and that
Yeah.
everyone would be performing for him. Right. And so I think yeah, I love the fact that this is a good reminder to him that that is not what happened here, especially on the eve of his birthday and all the events and the chaos in the circuit that's about to ensue this weekend.
Yeah, and Steve, there's also an emotional resonance with the Kennedy name. You and I are older than Olivia, and by the looks of us, by a lot. But there's also the fact that you and I we were not alive when John F. Kennedy died, but it has been remembered as a moment when America lost its innocence, in a decade when America lost its innocence. And John F. Kennedy symbolized to both Democrats and Republicans. And if people were like, oh, this is so partisan, you're down here doing this. I would tell Steve Schmidt right now, his former boss, John McCain, one of my heroes. John F. Kennedy, one of my heroes. I can say that as an American citizen. And and people get mad at me for saying that. I don't care. But Steve, John F. Kennedy's name, the man himself, means something to this country. There's that part of this. The eternal flame at Arlington National Cemetery is not far from here. The Kennedy name was at stake in all of this. John F. Kennedy's name was at stake in all of this.
I write about John Kennedy a lot,
Yeah.
and talk about him a lot. And one of the great tragedies of our modern era in our culture is the degree to which President Kennedy has been tabloidized. And the aspect of his private life, all of his sexual liaisons, has become the narrative of who he was, which is as absurd, I think, as trying to define the legacy of Franklin Roosevelt by the fact that he was involved with someone other than Eleanor Roosevelt. John Kennedy was a titanic figure, and a very, very important one. And the things that he said and believed in and talked about are necessary to summons in this hour of crisis. You mentioned the eternal flame. I took a friend of mine, a Canadian, on a walk down the mall, and we go through Arlington National Cemetery, and I point up at that mansion on the hill that belonged to Robert E. Lee, where he resigned his commission in the U.S. Army, and just down below the hill from the Trader's Portico is the resting place of the 35th President of the United States. And on the side of the hill are his brothers. His brother Robert, murdered at age 41. His brother Joe, killed in action in World War II. His oldest surviving brother, Edward, the Lion of the United States Senate. The four brothers dead in service to their nation on the hillside. The Kennedy family has made costly sacrifices for the preservation of the republic. And John Kennedy in America, for a generation, and we grew up in the shadow of him,
Right.
was a figure of such inspiration. And the last thing I'll say about him is Dick Cheney was as conservative as they come. He saw John Kennedy speak in 1960, and he didn't agree with what he believed in, but he was inspired by the cause around which those beliefs were articulated, which was the greatness of the United States. And it inspired Dick Cheney of the opposite party to pursue public service.
Wow.
And the question that I'd submit to everybody is, wouldn't it be great to have an American leader that could give a speech that would inspire a kid who said, I don't agree with him, but for the big things he's talking about, and I want to serve, but in the other party, I can't think of a greater example of inspiration than that. And that's
That's
whose
right.
name is deserving to be on the building, not the pig who's a convicted felon, who's abused women, whose best friend was a pedophile, who's lost a war to Iran.
That's right. And Kennedy talked about the price of freedom. He talked about ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country, which, Steve, you know, folks are our age and maybe Olivia's age too. People are a lot younger than us. People will say, oh, that's such an often quoted thing. You mentioned that to young people today, they may not know that John F. Kennedy said that. And so we have to repeat those messages that we will bear any burden. We will pay any price. We will
Pose
bear
any
any
foe,
burden.
pay any
That's
price.
right. That's right. And the American University speech, you know, we all cherish our children's future. We all breathe the same air. You know, I think Kennedy, there was a poetry to his language. I used to worship the ground he walked on and would read his speeches and study the people who wrote his speeches for him. And I mean, he symbolized an era that I think, even though he passed before you and I came on the scene, Steve, he inspired, I think, a lot of Gen Xers too. I think he inspired the Reagan generation.
Of course.
And there are a lot of Republicans who look up to John F. Kennedy, despite what you're saying, the tabloidization of his name. And there's so much about the Kennedy, I don't want to call it the mystique, but the legacy of John F. Kennedy that Jack Schlossberg, when I interviewed him just recently, his grandson, trying to bring that energy and spirit back, trying to instill it in young people in a generation that has just said, to hell with all this. We'd rather just be on our phone because we just, how can this guy be back in office? You know, they just can't believe that this country's in the state that it's in right now. And so I think John F. Kennedy's legacy matters in that sense too.
I think that if I could get everybody who is with us today to do something this weekend, it would be to go on YouTube, Google, however you do your social media searching, and watch John Kennedy's 9 or 10 minute speech, his farewell to the Massachusetts legislature. It's remembered as the Arabella speech in 1961, as he's getting ready to be inaugurated as president. He's still president-elect. And he talks about the high court of history, and he lays out a character test. You know, will we be men of judgment and character and dedication and integrity, and outlines the qualities of character that are necessary. Talks about Athens and the Athenians, and talks about the story of the Massachusetts Bay Colony, and it's deeply inspiring. And there is no world in which the filthy name of Trump should ever rest in marble atop the glorious name of President John F. Kennedy. Ever. It is a desecration, a violation, a rape of sorts.
No, and I will just tell you that somebody has chimed in with a Twitter comment that the judge in the case, Judge Cooper, has refused to stay the removal of the name. Now, I would like to double check that, fact check that. That's nice. That's nice of Jane to tweet that. I believe you, Jane. As Reagan would say, trust but verify. We're going to start quoting presidents here.
I could even do that in Russian.
You could do it in Russian. But I mean, you're so right, Steve, and Olivia, about the juxtaposition. I mean, and really it's not a juxtaposition, it's putting Trump's name over John F. Kennedy's name. Somebody who went on the campaign trail and said, I am your retribution, I am your revenge. talked about immigrants as poisoning the blood of this nation. He is the polar opposite. He is diametrically opposed to the Kennedy legacy. He is against everything that the Kennedy family stood for and stands for today. And I do want to pause for just a second and say that the workers who are on the scaffolding, again, getting back to our conversation about the audience of one,
Where they go.
or the audience of Steve Chung or whoever might be watching this on social media, because they probably lose their minds that we're doing this right now. Okay, so this is true. Associated Press, judge denies Kennedy Center request for pause and ruling ordering Trump's name removed from building. Okay, thank you, Jane, for getting that information to us, and thank you, Sam, for verifying that. But the workers have come off the scaffolding. I do want to caution everybody, the workers have come off, again, it's hot. Maybe they're taking a break. Maybe their union called, said, guys, take 5. I don't know. But Olivia,
what type
I
of
would not-
adhesive that they use on these letters? I'm starting to wonder if that's what's happening. This is where I am right now in the whole.
well, and I was going to say too, I would not be surprised if they said, I would not be surprised if they get the scaffolding up and then they wait until 11 o'clock tonight to do this. That's just me. Maybe I've covered Donald Trump too long, but Olivia, your thoughts on all of what Steve and I were talking about?
I think that's fair. I was actually wondering if they would wait till the middle of the night, where they kind of hope that it's where he would like to hope that not many people are going to be up and paying attention. So therefore, Jim, that means that you should probably be out there. Please hydrate and just stay for 12 hours and let us know what happens, and we can jump on later. I'm volunteering you. Whoa, as my ice poster falls.
All right, well, you're watching. Let's see, let me talk to the guys over here. Steve, can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay, good. Sorry, I lost you for a second there. This is what happens when I taunt the Kennedy Center, and then we lost Olivia. Let me talk to my guys over here. We're back? Okay. All right, we're back. Yeah, is Olivia still there? We might have lost Olivia. Olivia, you were there, now you're back.
I thought you kicked me off when I volunteered you to stay out there for 14 hours.
I should kick you out for saying that. No.
We can tag team. We can take turns.
I'll explain offline what's happening. But it has something to do with me getting spammed night and day by these people who are telemarketers, and I can't talk about getting people to do not call us. They can't do it. But Olivia, I've got my producer Sam. There's a drag queen out here. This is turning into a party out here. A drag queen with a bubble maker. I don't know. Is that Lindsey Graham's bubble maker? I don't know. But there's just checking to see if Steve's listening. We have a.
God bless America.
God bless America. They haven't chiseled his name off yet, but we have a bubble maker out here, Olivia.
I mean, I think there need to be more bubble makers out there as the day goes on.
Oh, we're gonna try to get the bubble lady. We're gonna try to get the bubble.
You know, Jim.
Some levity. Go ahead, Steve.
Jim, if I these were the last 3 paragraphs, short paragraphs from the speech that John Kennedy did not get to deliver on the day that he was assassinated. And I just want to read it so we can think about Donald Trump in comparison. And it goes, almost everywhere we look, the story is the same. In Latin America, in Africa, in Asia, in the councils of the world, and in the jungles of far-off nations, there is now renewed confidence in our country and our convictions. For this country is moving, and it must not stop. It cannot stop. For this is a time for courage and a time for challenge. Neither conformity nor complacency will do. Neither the fanatics nor the faint-hearted are needed. And our duty as a party is not to our party alone, but to the nation, and indeed to all mankind. Our duty is not merely the preservation of political power, but the preservation of peace and freedom. So let us not be petty when our cause is so great. Let us not quarrel amongst ourselves when our nation's future is at stake. Let us stand together with renewed confidence in our cause, united in our heritage of the past and our hopes for the future, and determined that this land we love shall lead all mankind into new frontiers of peace and abundance. That was John Fitzgerald Kennedy, 35th President of the United States. The exact, complete opposite of the 47th President, a pig and a felon.
No question about it. And Trump's name does not belong on that building. That's why I assume they're preparing to take it down, to tear it down, as Reagan might say.
Tear down that name.
Tear down that name, indeed, exactly. Mr. Gorbachev, Mr. Trump, although we don't call him Mr. Trump. I don't call him that. What about our friend across the street here? Should we?
Right now.
Let's see.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this name to come down off the Kennedy Center. I always
Here we
say,
go.
who would put their name above an assassinated president's name on that assassinated president's memorial, right? It's just obscene. It's narcissistic, all right? And the Kennedy Center now, if this name comes down, which I hope it does, that's not the end. It's the beginning. There's a lot of work to rebuild on the inside of the Kennedy Center, the programming, the fundraising, the trust that people have with this performing arts center, and I can't wait to be a part of that.
What does this mean for the arts?
Well, we'll have to wait and see. It's not just Washington, D.C. arts. There are college groups, there are organizations all across this country that depend on the partnership with the Kennedy Center. They have the reach. The Kennedy Center was at its pinnacle of where it has ever been, with how they did outreach, how they invited different communities into the Kennedy Center. And when Trump took over, they obliterated that. So we need to pay attention to what they destroyed, and we need to rebuild it together.
Beautiful. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
Happy Pride, happy American Pride, I would say. Guys, I love this. I love how it's a party when the bubble machine shows up. But Steve, I thank you so much for reporting that and bringing Kennedy's words to us. I'm going to ask my team here, what do we think? Okay, I think what we might want to do, and I don't have 24-hour continuous coverage, mainly because I have a 55-year-old back, and that needs a break. Steve and I were talking the other day. We're like, we're exactly the same age. We remember the same shit. We know all the same movie lines. But I think what we're going to do at this point is the workers have come off of the scaffolding. It looks like they're taking a break. We're going to take a break. For all the folks who have been watching, we're deeply appreciative. But maybe you guys should take a break. And we're going to keep an eye on this. We're going to reconvene. We're going to see how things are going. Obviously, if they start chiseling his name off or whatever it is, tearing it off, we'll jump back on. Well, I'll harass Steve and Olivia to get back on with us, and whoever else wants to get on. But thank you. Go ahead, Steve. You got any final thoughts there? Or
I just want to say one last thing, talking about John Kennedy. Another great speech for people to watch is his speech, his famous address where he calls for the U.S. to land a man on the moon at Rice University. It's an incredible speech. A Democrat should update it to talk about artificial intelligence as Kennedy condenses history. But one of the lines in that speech that certainly colored the era in which we were raised was this quintessentially American idea when John Kennedy, and it was preposterous in many levels when he said it in 1962, when we had sustained space flight for a total of 15 minutes, he said, we choose to go to the moon. We choose to do this not because it is easy, but because it is hard. And that hunger for exploration, for adventure, was so much part of his legacy and the can-doism of the new frontier, which John Kennedy talked about. The reinvigoration of the new frontier is of the highest importance for Democrats. And so maybe, just maybe, what Donald Trump has done here is given us an opportunity to focus on not a man's name, but on the words that man said and should be remembered for as we contemplate the eternal flame above his grave from the assassination that took him from the nation too soon at the age of 46 years old, a young father.
Amen, brother Steve. Great stuff. No, I think that's a great way to end this this portion of our coverage. I'll just put it that way. And Olivia, any final thought from you? The magnitude of this moment. I'm getting goosebumps thinking that this might actually happen, even though we might have to wait a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've got it officially reported that the judge has said, no, there's no stay. This is going to happen. So I think I am a cynic when it comes to the Trump administration and things happening. So I am going to hang in there today and continue to tune in and wait for this to actually happen so that we have confirmation that we see it, and then we'll celebrate. And the other thing I would say is that I now have to step up my attire and my flair, because seeing the drag queen and the bubbles, I think, tells me that we need to bring something more to the party. I feel very plain right now, but yeah.
And it's 90 something degrees. Yeah,
it is. It's very hot, which was super impressive. I was actually like very impressed with that, because I was like, how are they surviving in this heat right now?
Yeah.
But so maybe we'll figure out what we're gonna wear, and and maybe I'll go rent a golf cart for you, Jim, so you can last a whole day and we can just drive you around as you broadcast.
Well, the very nice people at Hands Off the Arts have set up a tent over here. And so there are some cooling stations, I think, that are emerging. But I will tell you that there are more and more people are coming out here as the afternoon grinds on. So Donald Trump, if you and your people are watching, you might say, oh, well, we're going to do this in the middle of the night. Oh, we're going to hold off and do this later. The crowd is just going to get bigger and bigger.
Yep.
The crowd is just going to get bigger and bigger. More and more Washingtonians are going to come down here to witness this humiliating moment for you, Donald Trump, if you don't do it right now. So you might want to be thinking, if you're watching in the Oval Office right now, in the residence, you're throwing things, you're upset, you're very upset about this, you might want to think about doing this sooner rather than later. But my guess is that a pause has been issued, and maybe we're going to have to wait a little bit before this to actually take place. But I do want everybody to know that as soon as this happens, as soon as this takes place, we're going to get right on this. And I'm going to I normally sleep with my phone on silent. I will turn off my silence on my phone tonight in the event somebody has to call me and say, Jim, get your ass up, get down to the Kennedy Center. They're finally ripping his name down. So I don't know. It may just be me and my phone here at 1 a.m. and my son will want to kill me. But by
it must be done.
It must be done. It must be
done. It must be done. It must be done.
And good night and good luck, as somebody once said. But guys, Olivia, Steve, thank you so much for tuning in, being a part of this, offering all of your pearls of wisdom. Greatly appreciated. And for now, I think we're going to sign off, and then we're going to come back in a little while. So Steve and Olivia, if you can come back, that would be great. If you can't, I totally understand. It's a Friday. But more and more people are gathering down here as the nation's capital prepares for a massively symbolic moment. For the people out there who have been saddened and depressed and feeling defeated and feeling like things can't change and thinking that, oh no, Donald Trump, he's going to dominate our lives from here to kingdom come. This is a moment, a small moment, albeit a small moment, that should give you a measure of hope, a measure of solace, a measure of peace, that yes, slowly but surely, nature can be healing. Democracy can be healing. Our system of government, our checks and balances can be healing. A judge has said to Donald Trump, get your damn name off of the Kennedy Center. The people, the stooges that Trump has put in charge of the Kennedy Center have tried to defy that and said to the judge, please stop this from happening. The judge has come back and said, no, you have to take his name off of the Kennedy Center. And so now we wait. This may be a process of minutes, it could be a process of hours. But for us and the rest of the folks in the media out here, we're going to be out here all afternoon. People have staged for this all afternoon long, all morning long, waiting for this to happen. And you can see there is a small crowd gathering in the shade there of the Kennedy Center. It's very hot in Washington, D.C. today. And so we're live at the Kennedy Center. We're waiting to see how this plays out. And as soon as this starts to happen, I think I'm gonna take my team out to lunch now. We're gonna go cool off, get some food, and then we'll wait to see if this starts happening. And if it starts happening, we'll jump back live on this this channel that you're watching. We're on Substack, we're on YouTube, we're on X, to the chagrin of the far right nut jobs who don't want us to be on X. We're there too. But in the meantime, all of my stuff is starting to shut down, so I'm going to take a break. But still reporting from Washington, I'm Jim Acosta. Stay tuned, folks. We'll be back out here when this starts to happen, and when it does, we'll bring it to you live. So see you soon. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time. Okay, we're back up.
We're back up. Okay, thank God.
Do we have anything that can charge this laptop?